Hi everybody, welcome to my studio. My name is Gift. I am the creator behind Down to Earth Paper. I make paper from recycled paper and turn it into notebooks and other paper crafts such as stickers and coloring books. Today I'll be teaching you how to make a hardcover mini notebook. This will be the final result of this tutorial. It is an A7 size hardcover book that's around 3 by 4 or 4.5 inches. I would like you to focus on using materials you already have. Therefore, we will focus on using scrap paper as the paper inside the book and the fabric cover. If you can find a fabric that is not too thick, not too thin, that would be ideal for making bookcloth, which is the fabric that covers the paper chipboard for the book. I actually got this tablecloth from Value Village. For the material inside the cover fabric, it's paper chipboard. You can actually use cardboard box instead of paper chipboard. This book also has headband and tailband. This is little piece of fabric that you see. It helps cover the space between the spine of the signatures and the spine of the book cover. It also adds a little bit of a cosmetic element to the book as well. All right, so let's get into the tools and materials you need to make this book. All right, the first step that we're gonna do is preparing the paper. Here I have scrap paper I got from my neighbor. All of it has the other side empty, and that's great. We still have plenty of space to use as a notebook. Okay, the size that I want for my notebook is A7, so that would be around a quarter of this whole paper sheet. So what I would do first is to count the number of paper I need. So what you have to understand first is we have some words, some terms for the paper we use for making books. So this is the thickness that I'm looking for. It has 8 signatures. So signatures are a set of folded paper sheets. One signature in this book, it has 5 sheets. So this is 5 sheets. What I'm gonna do is folding this in half. Use bone folder, or if you don't have bone folder, you can use a butter knife. That is half of the paper. Now I'm gonna need another half and another. Okay, so this is how you cut the paper. You cut half of the big paper you have, and this size is just a little size, so about 8 by 11. So cut in half first, and then cut another half, and that would make a quarter of the paper, and that's the size that we need to fold. This would be one signature. To make it signatures is to fold it. For this set of sheets, and that would be one signature. We're gonna need in total 7 signatures for our book. All right, now that you have all the 7 signatures, next we are about to punch holes for each signature so that we can start stitching. For the stitching method that I'll be using for this book is French link and kettle stitch. And the stitch will look like this. If the spine is exposed, there'll be 4 holes for each signature. On the sides, those are kettle stitch, and in the middle, these are French link stitch. So that's what we are going to do, although the spine and the stitching will be covered because this is a hardcover book. So pretty. You can start by making the template for the holes first so that you can use this template to punch each signature. To make the template paper, you can use like a cardstock type paper, which is a little bit thicker than your paper, and cut it to the size of the signature. But I tend to make it a tiny bit smaller like that, so that it'll be easier whenever you align the template with each signature. The thing is, since I cut each signature by hand, the length of each signature wouldn't be exactly the same. So when the template paper is smaller than your signature, it'll be so easy for you to see. And you can align that right in the center, just like that. It'll be easier. But if you make it the exact same length of the signature, you will end up having the template paper like hang over the signature on both sides, and it'll be harder to see the holes or to see if it center align. So once you have the length of the template paper that you want, then the measurement that you punch the hole for the template this is the measurement I use. Between the first and second hole, it's 2.5 centimeter. From the other side, 2.5 centimeter from the third and fourth hole. And that leaves about 3 centimeter between the second and the third hole. All right, and that's how you make the template. Once you have the template ready, you can start punching. The material I use for punching is this little awl here. You can use this little awl here or big needle, but make sure that you find a little piece to hold it like that. Otherwise, you could hurt your hand. To punch the holes, I align the template paper like that. Make sure that it's like right in the center of your signature. And then you just punch in the middle. Make sure that you hold it tight. All right, and there you have it. All the holes punch for this signature. You can also find a material that can put under whenever you punch the holes so that you don't damage your work surface. Align, center, and punch. Let me show you the result. Those are the holes using this foam as a buffer. Anyway, so let's keep doing punching holes for each signature until you're done with all 7 signatures. In case you find it difficult to hold its center like that without any support or without any real cradle, the cradle is the hole puncher, similar to this, but it's deeper. So it's made for punching holes like this, specifically for books. So if you don't have that, you can also put it flat to the surface like that. And whenever you punch the holes, just angle your hand like 45 degrees and punch. That also works as well. Now that we punch all the holes for each signature, next is stitching. Here's the stuff we need for stitching. First is linen wax thread. Got this from Amazon. I'm using red thread just for the sake of visibility. But you can use whatever color you have. I would suggest to try to get this linen wax thread for bookbinding instead of your usual sewing thread, which are a lot smaller. You can also use embroidery or cross-stitch threads because those are, you can bulk it up, but be sure to run the embroidery thread through wax so that it'll be easier to work with and it would hold better with a stitch. Once you have your stitch, measure the length that you need by times it with the number of signatures you have. In this case, we have 7 signatures. So we're gonna do this, like this is 1, the length of 1 signature. We're gonna count it until 7 and keep pulling the thread, all right? So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, that's all we need. Next is bookbinding needle. Some people might prefer using the straight needle, but I find that using curved needle is easier. And 2 clips. This would help hold the signatures together when we pull the thread to make the thread taut. And sometimes you might want to use this or some raised platform, and this is just a normal brick I got from Home Depot. You put it like that on your work surface and you start stitching. It's gonna help raise up your raise up the signature, and while you're doing the stitching, it would help make the work easier, basically. Sometimes I do use it, sometimes it's just not that necessary. It's up to you, but try what you feel like works best. Okay, so let's start stitching. Oh, by the way, another thing that we need is scissors. So first, we're gonna put the thread through the needle hole, like that. Grab 1 signature, and then put the thread in the first hole from the outside of the signature. And leave the tail about that size. Now, put your needle into the second hole from the inside. Pull the thread taut, and then put it into the third hole from the outside. Okay, and then put your needle to the fourth hole from the inside. So it's like threading your needle back and forth from the signature, like that. Now we're gonna continue with the second signature. Grab your second one. Start from your current area of the thread, which is this one here, this fourth hole of the first signature. Now put your needle into the first hole of your second signature from the outside. Pull the thread taut, and that would connect the 2 signature. Okay, now put your needle through the second hole of the second signature from the inside. Pull your thread taut, and now we are gonna start linking the 2 signatures by hooking with the thread of the previous signature, like this one. This is the thread between the second and the third hole of the previous signature. So hook up with that by putting your needle through the hole and then pull it up like that. It's gonna make like a little X like that, and then put your needle through that third hole of your second signature. So you can see it forms the letter X like that. So that's the link. Okay, now put your needle through the fourth hole of your second signature from the inside. All right, pull your thread taut. And now we are gonna tie a knot between the 2 signatures to secure them together. So to make sure that the thread of all sections are taut, we're going to be using the clips to help hold the signatures like that. Head and tail, two sides, but leave some space so that we can work on here. Now that we secure them, now we pull. And then we tie a knot. Pull. Pull it taut, but don't go crazy to the point that it rips apart the paper. I will pull twice. I will tie the knot twice to secure it. Okay. Now you can go ahead and just clip the tail off. Okay, now we're ready for the third signature. And you're doing pretty much the same practice with the second one. Put your needle into the first hole of the signature from the outside. Pull taut. Put your needle into the second hole of the third signature from the inside. Pull taut. And now for the linking, you will have to really pay attention. The thread that we're hooking up is the one right here. So this is the thread of the second signature towards your third hole of your third signature. All right, so hook it up like that. That's the thread we want. Now it hooks. Put your needle into that third hole of your third signature from the outside. Okay, now you can see the link between the second and the third hole, between the second and the third signature. This is also an X, but an X between the second and third signature. All right. Now, same thing, put your needle through the last hole of your third signature from the inside. Up, pull taut. Okay. And now to tighten and to secure the third signature with the second one is to put your needle in the hoop of the previous signatures like that. Like fish it. And then make sure that this thread here is in between that as well. Pull. And right before you tighten the hoop, put your needle through in that hole. And now pull. And that would form like a knot between the signature. Pull it taut. All right, now we are ready for the next signature. For the fourth signatures, repeat the same process as the third one. Put your needle into the first hole from the outside. Put your needle through the second hole from the inside. And to link the signature with the previous signature, focus on the thread of the previous signature towards your third hole. of the current signature. So this thread here, fish it like that, pull, and then put your needle into that third hole from the outside. Put your needle through the fourth hole from the inside. Pull. And to secure it, you can use the clip to help hold, pull tight. And to connect the current signature with the previous ones, fish the connector thread of the previous signatures, like so, towards outside of the book, like that. And right before you complete the circle, put your needle through that hole, through that hoop, and pull tight, and that would form a knot. All right, now you get the hang of it. You can continue with the rest of the signatures using the same method, just, going back and forth like snake, back and forth. If you're confused, just replay the video. All right, once you are at the last signature, so you already put your needle through that last hole from the inside, now you have this one left. So the way to finish the last signature, first to do the same, so hooking up your thread with the previous connector thread towards outside of the book, that way. Put your thread in the middle like that, and then pull. And right before you complete that circle, put your thread into that hoop to form the knot. So do the same as, previous signatures, the way you end it. But then to manage the end of the thread, put your needle through that last hole of the last signature. Put it through to the inside of the signature. Flip it. All right, now we are going to tie a knot. Put your needle through that thread there. Tie a knot. So put your needle through that hoop and pull. Pull taut. Clip off that leftover thread, and you just completed the stitching step of the book. That is a big step. Congratulations. So the reason why I am not concerned about this tail of thread here, because we're going to cover the spine anyway. So the next step is to glue this spine. So what we're gonna need is something very thick, like the chipboard that is really thick and dense. Or you can use, you can get 2 thin books, but try to get the books that are longer than the notebook we are making. Okay, but if you can get these chipboards, paper chipboards like this, that would be very nice. That would be easy too. Okay, so we need these 2 press boards. We're gonna need large clips, or even better, you can also use clamps like that. Got these from Home Depot. We put the book in between the press. Align it like that in the middle. What we need to do in this process is to ensure that all the signatures, they are well aligned, like they are pretty much parallel to one another. And that's what we want. That's what we want. If the spine goes like that, like all the signatures are not aligned, or if there are some popping out more than the others like that, and if you glue it like that without realigning it, your book will be not straight. Your book will be, you know, tilted. So it's not good. So try to realign them. Try to align them. Make sure that they are all parallel. I think the best way to do that is to just like knocking your signatures like that together with the board and secure it, press it tight, and then just observe, check if all is well. Yeah, once they're all aligned, secure it with the clamp. So here's the thing. If you can find anything that is larger, that would be even better in this case, because ideally I want the clip to go, you know, here, to be long enough to cover like this area of the book. Otherwise the book would be a little fat in the middle and a little thin at the head and tail, and that is not what we want. We want it straight all the way, evenly. So that's why ideally I would suggest you use this type of clamp, which is longer and stronger. So clamp it down like that, both sides. Readjust it. You can see that now the force is concentrated in the middle more than the head and tail. So you can just realign the clamp like that. And now they are pretty much straight. Try to set this, make it stand up. Okay, the next step is gluing the spine. I like to use this normal paintbrush, this size, because it's so it's so easy to apply. You can either use this brush or normal teeth brush or this proper bookbinding brush. So up to you, but if this is all you have, the paintbrush, that works totally fine. And the glue I'm using is PVA. It's actually this one, but I put it in the squeeze bottle to make it easier to use. And with PVA, you will have to make sure that once you finish using it, and if you're gonna go away for a while before continue using, the thing is, you have to be careful with the brush, using the brush with PVA glue, because whenever it's dry, it's gonna be so stiff and you will likely have to just toss this. If you have to wait several hours before using the brush again, then try to put the brush into the water just to prevent it to be completely dry. But since I'll be using the brush in a short amount of time, so it's fine just to leave it not soaked in water. Now I'm ready for gluing. I will glue twice. The first time is just this layer here with the bare spine, and the second time will be when we put a piece of cloth onto the spine, and that's called Mull. That's like the piece of cloth that you put on the spine of the book to help make the spine stronger. The way I apply this to the spine, the only area that I'm more conscious is the tail, both ends. So whenever you brush the glue, brush it away from the book like that, instead of brushing out from this direction. Because if you brush it out, some of the glue will stick like inside the signatures, and that would tear the paper whenever you open the signature if you have the glue stuck in between them. That's one warning there. Otherwise, just distribute the glue well. Brush it away from the book like that. Okay, once you're done, put your brush away and use your cutter to run through the space between the boards and the book, because they will stick together. You know, the board and the book, they will stick together, and you will have a hard time removing it when the glue is dry. So just run through like that. You don't have to press too much, because the point of this is to break the bond between the board and the signature, the board and the book. Do that for 2 sides. And that's it. Now you wait for the glue to dry. Put it away. While we are waiting, we will prepare the mull. We usually use white piece of fabric because this will be the area that, you know, if you crack between the book, like the signatures, if there's a tiny bit of space that you see through the signature when you open the book, the mull will be the piece that we see. If you don't have the mull with the same color with your paper, then just be aware that you will see that piece of element if there's any space between signatures. This is the old curtain, and it's perfect for me because first, it's not stretchy. I believe it's cotton fabric. It's thin, it's flexible. If you don't have a mull that is made for bookbinding, you can use a similar piece of material, or you can use cheesecloth or whatever thin white or pale fabric. You can use that as mull. I love using the material I already have. To gauge the size of the mull, what I normally do is put the mull right underneath the sides stitches, so the width will be between this until this. You can estimate roughly, or you can use ruler, up to you. But this is about 3 inches. Yeah, 3 inches long. And for the width, I would leave the overhang around half an inch. So I would need 1.5. So that's my measurement. It's not critical, this piece of the book. Don't have to be that precise. It's totally fine. So cut the piece out. Let me try 3.5. Yeah, a little too much. That's what I want. The reason why I leave these 2 side stitch not covered, because I will have to leave space for the end bands. So the end bands it's gonna look like this, unattached. This is what it's gonna look like in the book. You see that red element there between the book signature and the spine cover. Okay, so we got the mull ready. Next is, as mentioned, the end bands. This element is not critical for the book. It doesn't add any function to the book. It just helps with, you know, the cosmetic of the book, because it helps cover the space between the book and the spine. You can get end bands from Amazon, or you can just dismiss it altogether. It's totally up to you. One advantage of this end bands is that it hides some of the misalignment of each signature. So that's why it looks really nice with end bands on. Okay, I'm gonna wait for the book to dry a little bit longer. While waiting, we can start preparing the book cover. So the cover material that I'll be using, it's gonna be a chipboard. If you don't have paper chipboard like this at home, it's okay. You can use cardboard boxes instead. The difference is that the chipboard is stiffer and it's denser versus the cardboard, it's not as dense. There are holes in the cardboard and therefore they are not as strong. But anyway, if that's what you have, you can work with it. Another nice thing about chipboards is that they add more weight to the book. Since I have some leftover chipboard, then I might try to work with it if it's long enough. Okay, this would be 2 chipboards that I'll be using for the covers of the book. Now comes the important part, which is the dimension of the covers. You will see that there is a little bit of overhang of the width of the book and the length of the book. So that's one thing we have to account for. And there'll be in total 3 pieces, in fact, 2 of the covers and the spine. Okay, now comes the measurement. What we need to know first is the measurement of the signature of the book. That would be 7 centimeter for the width and 10.9. Yeah, about 10.9 length. This is the pure dimension of the signature. Now we have to account for the overhang, which is this part right here. We would have to add 6 millimeter because that's around 3 millimeter both sides. So 3 millimeter top and bottom. So that would be included in the length. So that would be 10.9 plus 6 millimeter. We would not add any overhang for the width, this part, because once we leave the space for the hinge gap, which is this one, that would do the job for overhang on this side. And that would leave us 11.5 centimeter in the end. So that would be the measurement for 2 boards. Make this 2 for front and back. Okay, so this is one cover, 7 centimeter right here, 11.5 right here. I will cut that together to make 2 covers all at once. Okay, and that would make 2 boards. Okay, once we get these 2 boards, we won't do the board for the spine just yet because we will have to prepare the book first. Once we add the mull, it would affect the width of the spine a little bit. So we have to do that first. Okay, so we put the boards aside for now. And we're going to be working with this. So the glue should be dry now. Remove all the press boards and clips. And this should be simple, should be easy enough because we already run the blade through the crack. It shouldn't tear the paper. But if it's not coming out that easy, you can use the blade to run through it again, like so. Like that. And that is quite easy. Okay, that's done. Now this is already glue and dry. That's one layer. To do the next layer with the mull, put it back into the press board. But this time, just leave it pop up from the press like that, just a little bit, like about a centimeter. Because the point is we just want it to just stand up and give us some space to work with it to make it stand like that. We are gonna go ahead and do the second layer of the glue. Before we start with the second layer of the glue, we're gonna go ahead and cut this end bands. So the way to measure this, we just need the width of the spine plus a couple millimeters. So if you can see here, you can see that the width of the end bands goes a little bit over there, you know, to the side. And that helps cover the side of the book really well when you close it like that. See, leaving no space in the hinges. And that's what I aim for. The width of this, just gonna kind of eyeball it and then cut it down later when I need it. Too wide. That's the width I want. Do this 2 pieces like that. Then we are gonna apply the glue. One thing with PVA is it dries quickly, and sometimes it's gonna stuck with the hole here. Okay, that's all I need. Start distributing the glue just the same way you did the first time. It's okay if your glue, you know, goes a little bit beyond the spine, like on the side. It's not a big concern because we will cover that. It will be in paper of the book anyway, so it'll be glued up with the spine. Okay, and like I mentioned, just be aware when you apply the glue at the both ends of the book, brush it away from the book. Once everything is smooth and evenly distributed, you can go ahead and attach the mull. Put it in the middle, press it down. And I tend to like to use a normal brush to brush it like that, just to make it even well snug to the surface of the spine. Okay, once you're done with that, then you can put on the bands. Well, actually, I'm afraid that the glue might already start drying, so I'm just gonna put a little bit more glue. Yeah, PVA dries so quickly, so you have to work fast. Okay, and to stick this, make sure that that piece goes there, like right over the top of the spine, and make sure that they are right in the middle of the spine with like about a millimeter overhang on the sides. Do that for 2 sides. Try to work quick because it dries so quick. Like that. Keep pressing. Make sure it's tight. And then your book will be ready for the covers. So I remove it from all that press boards and the clips. We're gonna continue working with the covers. So now that we have 2 covers already cut, next we have to do is to cut the cover for the spine. The only thing we have to measure now for the spine is the width of the spine, because we already have the same, we're gonna be using the same length of the cover for the spine. And for the width of the spine, we have to include 1 piece of board. It doesn't matter if you want to measure it this way or the other side. It doesn't make a difference. But all we need is just the whole book plus the width of 1 board. And that would be the width of the spine overall. And in this case, that will be 1.4 centimeter. Okay. Okay, now we get the measurement. Let's cut the board. Okay, now that we have the spine ready, the next thing we should do is to try fitting the cover with the book. So you're gonna need some washi tape. You just tape it down like that. One piece at the top, another at the bottom. Start from the spine first, flip it over. And then at this point, we are gonna do the hinge gap, you know, the space in between the spine and the front and back covers. That space is called the hinge gap. For this book, you know, with the thickness of the board and the thickness of the fabric cover, the hinge gap that I find works the best for all of this is 6 millimeters. I just cut out a 6 millimeter piece on a chipboard and make it as a spacer. So what you do is just, you know, once you cut that out, put that right next to the spine, and then put your cover right next to that spacer. And that will leave you the 6 millimeter hinge gap. Remove your spacer and then do the same thing to the other side. Make sure that it is sitting nice and tight right next to the spine piece, and put your cover right next to it. Remove that spacer, and then you can start fitting the book into that board, into that cover. Put it right in the middle of that spine vertically, and then put both of the boards against your book and observe the book overall. You can see that there is about 3 millimeter overhang from all these three sides. That's what we aim for when we measure the boards for the cover. That looks perfectly nice and snug. And that's how we know that all the board pieces are perfect and suitable now for the book. Then we can move on to preparing the fabric for the cover. So when you're working with your fabric cover on your workspace, just make sure that your workspace is clean and ready to be, you know, to put the fabric on, because your fabric cover is the face of your book. If your workspace is not clean, then your fabric would just catch all the dust on your workspace. So just one thing to be aware of. This piece of fabric I got from Value Village. It is actually tablecloth. Now I'm so proud and so happy that I got this piece as my book covers, because it's just, the color is just so pretty, and it's not screaming super pink, like bright pink, but it's just gentle, mild pink, and that's why I like it. But something to be aware of when you use secondhand fabric is that there might be some stains somewhere. So to cut the fabric off the big piece of fabric, I'll just roughly measure. So I leave a little bit of space on this side right here, the same amount of space on this side, and then I'll cut that from the top. Yeah, sort of eyeball it right now, because we will definitely trim to the exact size that we want later on. So put your fabric away. And the next process is to back the fabric with paper so that this piece of fabric would be like a more proper book cloth. Backing it with paper would help build the structure of the fabric. As you can see, this fabric is pretty thin. Backing it with paper to turn it into something like this, that would add a little bit more thickness to the fabric, and it would help solidify the structure of the book a little bit better. The paper I use to back up the fabric is just normal thin tissue paper, like the kind that you use for packing. So I will use this piece of tissue paper, and that's because I already have this thin piece of paper. So if you already have paper like this, you likely do, try to use that first before buying new material. So I will cut to size. And for this, using rotary cutter is more convenient. After we cut the tissue paper, we will put the glue on. Next is we're gonna start gluing the paper and then put it into the fabric. Before you start gluing, make sure that you have waste paper to use with the glue, something that is a little bit bigger than the paper piece. And I'll use the same type of PVA glue with bigger brush. Make sure that you distribute the glue very evenly. Another way to back the fabric with paper is to use heat and bond material. So it'll be a piece of a roll that you can iron on your fabric, and after that, just iron on the paper onto the fabric to bond it with the fabric. So once I put the glue on, then I put the fabric onto this. You can either put the fabric on or put the paper on, up to you, but make sure that you don't leave any like air bubble trap inside or you know, the crease and all that. Just put it on and then press it really firmly. One thing about PVA glue is that it dries so quickly, so just be sure to work fast. When I press it, I'll press it from the inside, from the middle, and then press outward like that to make sure that I don't leave any crease or, you know, air bubble inside. All right. Another thing is when you place your fabric onto the paper, in case your fabric has, you know, the right and the wrong side, just put the wrong side onto the paper, so that the right side would be facing up for your book cover. Okay, once it is smooth, then it is ready. One thing to make sure that your book cover is nice and smooth is that you can iron the fabric before you get into this process. That is one thing I didn't do in this case because you know, there's not many creases on this piece, so I don't mind that. Then we can work on actually making the cover. So a few notes about backing the paper to the fabric. There are a few ways to do this that I have tested. One is this one that we did here, gluing the paper with the fabric. Another one is it'll be quicker to do, might be more practical for some of you. is to use heat and bond material. The way to do this is to iron on this piece onto your fabric, remove the plastic lining, and then iron on the tissue paper on top of that heat and bond material. And the heat of the iron will activate, will bond the paper with the fabric. So that is one way to do. I choose to do this gluing method manually because I think that's the easiest way for most of us if you only have glue and if you don't have the heat and bond. However, one warning is using glue. It works better with lighter color fabric than darker color because when this glue dries, it dries clear. However, if your fabric is so thin, it is possible, very possible, that the glue will seep through your fabric. You will likely see the glue marks. If you really want to avoid that and make sure that you don't have any seep-through glue, you can go with the heat and bond roll, and that would be more practical for darker fabric cover. I also try to avoid using heat and bond because it makes more waste, plastic waste. So that is for me. Okay, now we are ready for actually making the cover. So grab your boards. We are going to cut the fabric to the exact size that we need. And for that, we're gonna need a few pieces of spacer as a guide. I show you the 6mm spacer already. We use for the hinge gap. We will use this for this step as well. Another piece is the 2cm spacer. We will use this with the outside of the cover as an overhang fabric. The overhang fabric is the piece that we flip over into the board and glue it to the board. These are the 2 spacers we need. And the last piece is the corner piece. So this would go there at the corners of the boards. This corner piece. For this book, I choose the 5mm spacer. That would be this space right here, between the corner. This is the corner, and this is the amount of fabric we need to be able to fold it properly to make a proper corner. If you don't have this, you can make a simple template from your thick board as well. All right, so we can now start cutting. Oh no, before that, make sure that you actually work with the paper side of the cover, because this will be the area that we put the glue on. You put your board right there, remove all the tape. It might tear a little bit, that's okay. Now I'm gonna use a ruler to help, align all the boards to be even like that. So now you can start gluing. I like to pick up the board piece and glue like this instead of put it flat on the surface because I find it easy to do and it ensures that I distribute evenly. And use the ruler as a guide. Start using the overhand piece to make sure that you have, at the very least, enough space for all the sides. Make sure you press it nice. Next, use the spacer to put right next to your board, just like when you do the fitting for the book. Put your spine piece right next to that spacer. Make sure it aligns. All the boards are aligned. Remove your spacer. Put it right next to the spine again for the other side. And then put it right next to that spacer. Make sure that it aligns correctly. Pressed it. Remove your spacer. And now we can start trimming away all this excess paper and fabric. We are going to use this overhang template spacer. Put it right there. Put your ruler on top of it. Make sure they align, and then cutting and trimming it. Do the same thing for all the sides. Okay, once you're done with this overhang thing, you can now start with the corner piece. Do the same thing for all the 4 corners. Okay, and now your fabric is ready for gluing. To start gluing, we're gonna need a big piece of a waste paper. Put it underneath your cover, your bone folder, your glue brush. We are gonna do the length sides first. 1, 2. After that, we will continue with the width. Apply your glue like so. Oh, it's a little too much. Apply your glue just a little bit over this side of the corners as well. Use your bone folder to flip this flap, make the crease, and over. And press. Make sure that you press the corner piece right here too. On both sides. Lift it up, turn it over to the other side, the opposite side. And make sure that you stay away from the trace of the glue the first time you use it. If you're not sure where the glue is, it'll be safer to just change the paper, the waste paper entirely. Your fabric can catch the glue that is not yet dry, and it would make the mark on your fabric. Put the glue on just like the first time. Spread it all over. Use bone folder to flip the flap. Make the crease and over. Press it nice and tight. Make sure you did the corner too. Press the corner down on both sides. Be sure to work quickly because the glue dries quick. All right, once you're done, I would just go ahead and change the waste paper. Now we're gonna work on the width side. Do the same thing, the glue on. Use your bone folder to help the flipping. Make the crease, flip, and over. Make sure that you stick the glue well, make it smooth on the corners. Flip it over to the other side. Make sure you stay clear from all this wet glue, or change the waste paper. Flip it, make the crease, and then over. All right, now we put the glue on all 4 sides. Now your cover is pretty much ready for the final gluing. This is, I would say, one of the most important steps of making the books, which is assembling. We're going to be gluing this whole book with the cover. I try fitting it on to make sure that it fits nice and perfectly, which it is. Okay, so what we're gonna need for this step is 2 waste paper that is a little bit larger than your book. Just like that. You're gonna need that. And the glue, of course, and the brush. We will also have to work very fast because, as I mentioned, the glue dries so quickly. My method is that we're gonna be gluing both sides of the book before sticking it onto the book. And there might be some tricky part in, aligning the book with the board. So it's the step that you need to be very focused. Okay, so first we're going to start by just make sure that we glue this Mull piece onto the book. Doesn't need to be super precise, but just make sure that it glues on so that it doesn't interfere when we glue this whole page later. So the first and the last page of the book, that will be our end paper. Now, what you're going to do next is to glue both pages. And to start doing that, putting your waste paper right underneath that page. Put the glue on. Be quite generous with the glue. Okay. Once you're done with this page, remove your waste paper, put it away. Grab the next waste paper. Flip your book over to the other side, the dry side. Put your waste paper underneath it and hold your waste paper with your fingers like that. Okay, now glue it just like you did the first time. Okay, now you're done gluing, remove your waste paper and grab your book like that with all the wet pages away from your fingers. So I'm gonna show you this now, but when you work on your book, just put your cover flat onto your work surface. But I'm gonna need to show you closely. So the way you align this, make sure that your spine is aligned center vertically and horizontally. Once you're sure, lift your covers, lift the hinge against your book. Squeeze your book like that. And this would ensure that your book stays absolutely at the center of the spine. You slowly close the book. And that would pretty much automatically smoothen the end paper of the book that you just put the glue on. To make sure that it actually smooths, just open your book a little bit like that. And then smoothen it, pressing it with your bone folder. Do that to the other side. Try to use your bone folder to help increasing the crease between the hinge gap if you want that kind of crease on your spine. This is not critical, but I really like it. It's a really charming cosmetic, like decoration for the books itself. At this point, you're already done assembling your book. You can call it a day and just enjoy using your book, or even better, if you have enough patience, I would recommend you to press the book for at least like half an hour on each side with something heavy like a brick. So the way I like to do this, I like to use a piece of acrylic like that with a flat surface. Grab 2 skewers. This is about 2 or 2.6 diameter. So this would help making the crease of the, the spine, the hinge gap, more permanent. So I put it underneath the bottom spine and put it over the top spine, the hinge gap. Put your acrylic piece over on the top, and then grab something heavy, ideally a piece of brick or two, but if you don't have a brick, you can use really heavy books. I'm using 2 pieces of bricks. So this is how it looks like from the side. You see that the skewers are on the hinge gaps, top and bottom. And I'll show you on the view from the other side. Okay, you can see that that's how the skewers help with the crease. So I like to keep this on the side for 30 minutes. So I'll try keeping this So ideally, I'll keep this overnight. So ideally, I like to keep my book like this under pressure overnight, just to make sure that the crease on the hinge gap really stays. However, for the purpose of this tutorial, I'll keep this here on this side for 15 minutes, and we'll flip to the other side and we'll do another 15 minutes. Okay, I'll see you in the next 15 minutes. Okay, 15 minutes pass. Let's have a look at the book. Ooh. Can you see that? This is the front. See the back. All right, this is looking nice. But I still would like to flip the book over and then press another 15 minutes. This is looking nice already, but yeah, I would like to make sure that I give the same amount of pressure on both sides of the book before I actually finish it. We'll see you in the next 15 minutes. All right, now that the 15 minutes is up, and let's have a look at the final result of our product. Well, look at that. Look at the beautiful creases of the hinge gap of both sides. That is gorgeous. The spine, front and back page. The endbands, you can see that having a little bit longer endbands help with this a lot. It just knocks in the space in the hinge gaps really nice on both sides. All right, now one test that I like to do to see if we stick the book into the cover, like center or not, is to open the book. Try to find the middle point of all the signatures, like that, and then open it up and see if your spine stays in the middle or not. And in this case, as we work really hard for this, it stays right in the middle. Just like we hope for. All right, and that is how you make a hardcover tiny book. Congratulations! Okay, now we are coming to the end of this tutorial, and I hope that you enjoy making this little pink book, and I hope that my instructions in making this little cutie are helpful for you. And if you do have questions along the way, let me know. Please let me know. I would like to hear your feedback about this tutorial so that I can improve and do a better job next time. All right, thank you. Until next time.